Hello and welcome to the Uneducated PT podcast with me, your host, Carl O'Rourke. The goal of this podcast is to bring on interesting and knowledgeable people from all walks of life, learn a little something from each conversation, and for you, the listener, to learn something from each episode. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel, press the box below, show some support, and I'll see you on the next episode. I'm sure the listeners know who you are at this stage, right? But for people listening, can you give them a little bit of insight into you getting out of your comfort zone the last couple of months, because I think that will be good context for the next couple of topics that we're gonna touch on. So, how have you been getting out of your comfort zone of late?
Fuck. In every which way but fucking straight. So I prep for a Muay Thai fight. And I'll tell you the tea in a second, but prepping for a Muay Thai fight at I think it was the third biggest stadium in Thailand, Samui International. Um, and I found this out after the fight while I was on the main card as the main event. I was training, just doing like one a days, which is like a minor thing, right? Like when someone's getting prepared for a fight, you don't train one a days, you usually do 2 a days.
Mm.
And then then essentially I was like, look, the boss man of the gym, I can't remember what they're called, but like there's a certain level of expertise when you're a Muay Thai fighter from like the golden age, it's like fucking sensei kind of thing,
Yeah.
right? And he was in the gym, he was like, you want to fight? I was like, why the fuck do you think I'm here? And he was like, oh, okay, you want to fight then? I was like, yeah. He was like, okay, cool, we'll get you a fight. I was like, sweet. And he was like, does it matter? I was like, nah, I'll fight anyone. I don't really care. And he was like, sure? I was like, yeah, I'm fucking sure. He was like, this is good. I was like, what do you mean this is good? He was like, you got hot. I was like, that's not boding very well, but okay. And then I had to transition to literally doing 2 a days
Mm.
because 6 days notice for the fight. And then it was 2 a days for about so I started running 2 a days, but because I had work, I couldn't run the 2 a days like you should, right? Which is in the morning, come back, refuel, rest, recover, back in the evening for the second session. So I was like, okay, I'll start with the 2 a days, and this is about 2 month camp, right? So not a very long camp.
Yeah.
Okay. So I started with the 2 a days in the morning. So I just be like, I'll just go back to back in the morning. They were like, sure about that? I was like, fucking dead sure, bro. Like, let's do it. So that's like 3, 4 hours of training and sparring. And I was getting like live sparring, like 20 rounds in post jog, post skipping, post
Yeah.
bag works.
And just for context, this is a completely new sport to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, so the only inkling I have of Muay Thai was from the MMA stuff that I did when I did my MMA amateur fight.
Mm.
And with MMA, you obviously do a bunch of different martial arts.
Yeah.
And I found that the striking that was one that I loved the most was Muay Thai because you can use your fucking elbows, you can use your knees, and you can cause serious damage. So I did really enjoy that aspect of it. But in terms of actually Muay Thai itself, totally different to MMA,
Yeah.
like totally different,
Yeah.
So then getting prepped for it and stuff like that was intense, especially around the 2 a days because the 2 a days in the morning, because you're in there and then the coach, they call it a crew, which is a teacher. So like KHRU or KRU was like, okay, cool, you do your session and then just take like 10 minutes, have some fucking water, and then we get back into it and everyone's there. And I was like, and after those sessions, I'm like fucking blowing.
Yeah.
And then everyone else comes into the gym and he's like, okay, cool, spar. So all these dudes come in, and a lot of them are professional fighters, a lot of them are like guys who've got a lot of fights under their belt. And he's like, spar him. And then I noticed like I've always been sparring these dudes when I've been under extreme fatigue.
Yeah.
So then when it transitioned to, okay, the fight's at this point, we need you running 2 a days properly, as in morning and afternoon, right? It was totally different story. You know what I mean? When you were able to do that. And the level of discipline, perseverance. I said this to my clients, the amount I learned going through that experience that is transferable to mindset coaching and your ability to go through things, limiting beliefs, fears, and whatever it may be, you can't put a price on what you learned in that experience. It's ridiculous, you
What
know,
what what kind of limiting was there times where in your thought process limiting beliefs were coming up?
every day,
Yeah.
every single fucking day, without a doubt. Like I would sit. So even when I was doing the 2 a days in the morning, I'll do my session, and then I would sit there and I'll be like drenched in sweat. I'll send you a clip, and I'll just close my eyes and I'll just pray. And I had this like prayer in my head that I would just repeat again and again and again, which was, what was it? It was be courageous in the Lord, right? And adorn the full armor of God so you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. So I'll close my eyes, I'll drink my water, and I'll be drenched in sweat. And then I'll just repeat that again and again and again. And then I'd get up and then I'll go into the stretching and then boom, straight into the training.
Mm.
You know, and it was so arduous and hard. It was like people underestimate how much they can actually fucking do if they commit to a process. And because it was a fight coming up, it was like, okay, you're going to stretch yourself to the nth degree here and you're just going to do it. And at every juncture, there's a limiting belief. And as the fight got closer, which I'm sure we'll talk about, you'll see what I mean, like how much pressure, anxiety, fear, every fucking dodgy emotion under the sun, so to speak, um, was just creeping in and creeping in and creeping in and creeping in and creeping in.
Mm.
And having to act in defiance of that to make sure that you fulfill what you promised to yourself was next level. You know, it was insane,
What
insane.
about like so? Let's say there's probably days where you're sparring where again this is a sport that's completely new to you. You're going in against people who probably trained in this since they were 3 years of age. You're probably sparring people who have been doing this since 3 years of age. I'm sure there was lots of kind of sessions where you probably felt that like because you're f fighting people of of another caliber, it's like oh. Sometimes it's like when things are really difficult, you can't notice yourself getting better. Was there any kind of frustrations in that in terms of sparring days and being like, shit, am I even getting better at this?
You know what? Yes, they were because you get teed off on from some dude who was like 5'8", who's got
Mm,
like 80 fights under his belt,
yeah,
and he would just tee off on you. And I'm like a big dude. I
yeah.
went from 128 kilos down to 91, right? Just from the training.
I bet you're enjoying having your abs back though.
Yeah, I am to be fair. You know, but the kind of abdominal conditioning they do, I thought I was going to cop a hernia every fucking day because they would just be like, okay, cool, stand against the ropes. We're just going to kick the shit out of you.
It's
I
just
was
gonna
like,
kick you in the stomach for half an
yeah,
hour. Yeah,
yeah. Like you can see it on my Instagram. There's like me doing sit-ups, and there's like, I'm
yeah.
like, okay, you know, I'm going to keep going. And in those moments, there's every single voice saying, dude, you can just stop. Like it's fine. Like it's okay. And I just kind of trying to channel. And there's no, and I'm not doing this dude's justice, excuse me. But I kind of channeled the David Goggins, which was like, okay, I may not be super skilled, et cetera, et cetera. I may be slow, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But if he says, because they'll do like, okay, sit-ups 10. And they all speak Thai. They can only count to fucking 10,
Mm,
right? So they'll be like 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10.
yeah.
And I'm like, okay. So I clocked it and then I was like, you know what, fuck this. I'm not even going to bother counting. I'm just going to keep going
Mm,
and until he just says, okay, you're done, you know, and I'm just going to at least show what I have, which is a bit of fucking grit.
mm,
You know what I mean? So I just stopped being like, okay, well, when is this going to be over? Instead, I started breaking it down and I was like, okay, you got skipping. Gravity is my enemy. I am literally anti-gravity. Your boy sinks. He doesn't sink, okay? The only way he swims is he's got big pan hands, right? So they help me pull through water. You know what I mean?
I'm surprised they could even find someone your size to fight over there.
I to be fair, I think I had 10 kilos on him.
Yeah.
But he find this out after the fight, right? He is the German Muay Thai champion. He's been fighting for 12 years. He was 6 foot 4 or 5. And as I'm walking into the stadium, I see a fucking poster. And it's him.
Mm.
And I'm like, okay. And then I find out, and I'm kind of going to getting a bit ahead of myself. I'm in the ring, and they're doing the announcements, and they're like, from the wilds of South Africa, we got Ryan Eveleigh, you know. And then we go, and then he starts introducing the other girl, and he's like, this instructor at the stadium himself, Fleeks, the German with it. And I'm just like, I didn't look at my corner, but I want to be like, guys, like, what the fuck? Like, what's going on right now? Do you know what I mean? So it was insane and it was intense in that sense, you know. So yeah, there were so many hurdles and limiting beliefs that you had to overcome that
Mm.
you never thought you could.
So here's a question for you. Like, how did you overcome them limiting beliefs? Because I mean, if we translate this back even to your clients, it's like, okay, everyone's challenges are different, whether it's like limiting beliefs in, fitness, in going into a fight, in business, in weight loss, whatever it is, people doubt themselves all the time, and um a lot of the times it's them limiting beliefs, that self-doubt, and then that frustration that prevents people from keep going. And especially if the way, like, we talk as coaches, like, get early wins, and make sure that people feel like they're getting better and stuff like that. But when you're doing something that's really challenging and out of your comfort zone, you you constantly it constantly feels like a challenge, and it can be very difficult to see that you're actually getting better, like I touched on. So how
Yeah.
did you kind of um go through that process to make sure that you can continue down the process to achieve your goal of getting in the ring?
I was going to be straight honest. Two things. Faith, genuine faith, right? You go try find an atheist in a ward where everyone's dying in hospital. Go try find one, right? That and the fact that I was committed and I made a promise to myself.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm going to go through this process. And it wasn't just for me. This is where people got it twisted. It was to show my clients and anyone else who's watching that irrespective of the adversity or adversarial nature of life, you can go through it if you're willing to do it, right? No matter what. So, and when we talk about getting close to the fight, you see what I mean. But at every juncture, there is a limiting belief, like every single one, and the teachers, the crews, they are not gentle. They are not like, oh, it's okay. They're like, no, 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 get it fucking perfect. Like you're not on your toe as you're throwing that kick.
Mm.
Like put your whole fucking hips into it. You know what I mean? Et cetera, et cetera. So what you have is you have these teachers and stuff who are brilliant at Muay Thai, but a lot of them won't accept anything less than close to perfection. And you're so far from that, right? And what you've got to do is you've just got to be like, okay, cool, break it down, right? So I would literally just break it down. There was a Navy SEAL, I can't remember who he was, but he said it best, where he was like, you get through buds like this, right? You wake up in the morning, you brush your teeth, and you make your bed the right way. That's 3 wins, right? You make it to breakfast, that's another win. And then when you go to PT and they are beating you down, you don't think about the pain you're going through because it's going to be fucking ruthless. You just think about your next goal in life, which is get to fucking lunch,
Mm.
right? So I broke it down even further. Like, for example, skipping was extremely hard. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm just going to focus on my skipping. Okay, what's next? Right. Okay, you're doing the bag work, right? Freestyle bag work. Okay, I'm just going to focus on that. And I would break it down into the smallest possible increment I could handle every single which way. You know what I mean? And at every single juncture, you're hitting a limiting belief, you're hitting doubts, you're hitting failure, and you're going beyond what you're capable of, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you would think you'd come home and be like, yeah, I feel so fucking good. But it's not like that because you're pushing yourself so far,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? That you're just like, okay, fuck it, next thing. So when it comes to stuff like that, the only way you're ever going to grow from that is by voluntarily deciding to say, okay, I'm going to make a promise to myself, and there's going to be a shitload of doubt, fear, anxiety, sadness, like pure fear, and a bunch of other things. But you made a promise to yourself. You're going to do it.
Can I touch on that point there? So that's a really good point in terms of making a promise to yourself. Do you think it helped that fact that you come from a sporting background where you played rugby at a high level, that like um you've kept promises to yourself in the past? Because the way, like, a lot of people might start, let's say, a fitness journey or whatever, they make a promise to themselves that they're going to get in shape or they're going to stick to the gym, and then they break that promise to themselves, and then it's easier for them to break that promise the next time, and then they go through this cycle of continuing to break promises to themselves, and then their word doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah.
Whereas for you, you've almost built up that muscle before you got there to do something that was completely out of your comfort zone. You've already built up a muscle of keeping promises to yourself. So when you say it, you mean it, and you're going to follow through on it.
Yeah. To be fair, that is true. The sporting background, the biggest thing the sporting
And
background
business as well.
yeah, and business as well. Like the biggest thing that background gave me was your body is way more capable than you give it credit for.
Resilience.
Yeah, yeah. Your mind is your problem. Your mind is your issue. And at every juncture where you say, I'm going to make a promise to myself, no matter how scary it is, and you follow through with it, you build literal neurological pathways in your head that give you proof of concept that you can follow through no matter what, right? And people go, well, did adversity strike? Yes, at every juncture, all the time, trying to manage a business, a bunch of different things. But when I made that promise to myself, I was like, I'm not going to let myself down, because not only am I making this promise to myself, but it's to show people that you can genuinely do something that you never thought you fucking could. And that's going to take a lot of grit and a lot of determination. And it's going to mean that, every single repressed or dark thought or whatever it may be is going to come up, and you've just got to act in direct defiance of it. You know what I mean? No matter what. There were points, especially close to the fight, where you're doing 2 a days, and I would do the morning session. I'd be absolutely fucked, right? And I would literally, I posted this on my story where I'd sit and I'd hit this pose, like I'll be sat on my balcony, hit this pose, like, fuck, here we go again, right? The next session's coming up. Do you know what I mean? And then I would like create a system where I would put my earphones in, and I would play certain things that elicited certain responses in my head, right, on purpose. And then I would use that, and then I would wrap my wraps nice and slowly, pack my bag, and almost create it as like a meditative state.
Mm.
And then it's like, okay, now you're going. It's not a discussion. It's you're going. I don't care how well you do, you're going. I don't care if you fuck up, you're going, right? And at every single juncture, you're having these wars in your head, because I think it was Jordan B. Peterson who said it best about Luciferian intellect, right? Which is, if you've got a high level of intelligence or wisdom, lack thereof, right? You best get on your hands and fucking knees and pray and be so grateful that you got it. Because if pride or hubris comes into play and you're an intelligent person, now you're dealing with an adversary that is just as cunning as intelligent,
Mm.
and that is fucking dangerous. And that is why it's called the Luciferian intellect, because Lucifer was the archangel of wisdom. How the fuck did he fall? He thought he could overthrow God. You see what I mean? Right?
And when you have that wisdom, or when you are an intellect, it's very easy to be able to make a compelling argument why
Yeah, you
not
can spin
so.
a narrative against it.
Yeah,
And I was spinning such clever narratives towards it. And I was just like, no. I was like, I can tell what I'm doing here. And it's a narrative I'm spinning. And is it a narrative that is actually going to help me, or is it a narrative to just give me a scapegoat?
yeah.
And I would just ask another question. It's a scapegoat, mate.
So
Go.
here's a question for you. So let's a couple of your clients will probably be listening to this. A couple of my clients will probably be listening to this. In
I
terms
hope
of,
so.
yeah. So in terms of um, so let's say it's someone who constantly breaks promises to themselves. And it's become a reoccurring pattern. What would your advice be to someone to start to keep their promises? Whether that's
Stop
going to
setting
the
stop
gym,
setting the bar so high.
yeah, yeah.
Straight away.
Like you said, just get to the door, just get to the gym.
That's it. Mate, that's literally what I do. Be like, okay, cool. Wake up. Get up. Okay. Nice. But the problem is, people tend to ignore small wins, and
Yeah,
they don't understand how they stack. You see what I mean? So what happens was, especially with people who break promises to yourselves, you've built a cognitive pattern of, it's okay to break that promise to myself, which means that you see yourself as less than what you are, because you made a promise to yourself and you broke it. Now, do you need to berate yourself about that? No, you need to just step back and analyze, okay, was it a bit too far afield for me at that current moment? Like, if I can just make my fucking bed, I kept a promise to myself there. And I can actually be proud of that. You know what I mean? There's actually nothing wrong with that. That's a good thing. Like, well done, and on to the next, right? And if people always are always breaking promises to themselves, just set the bar a bit lower, right? Like, okay, look, maybe you can't get to the gym. That's fine, right? Can you go for a walk? I can go for a walk, but I may not hit my steps. Doesn't matter. Can you make a promise to go for a walk today? Yeah, I can make a promise to go for. Okay, cool. There you go. Did you keep the promise? Yeah, I did. Now we're building something here, right? We're actually building a solid foundation, both cognitively and emotionally and mentally.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's super, super important. So if you're breaking promises to yourself, right, don't be too harsh on yourself, but start to make promises to yourself that are actually well within your means of achieving on purpose to build the cognitive pattern and to give yourself proof of concept that, hey, I can keep a promise,
Hmm.
you know?
This ties really well in, I think, to a quote that I wanted to get from you. So you wrote, "The concept of self-love isn't just a trendy phase; it's a vital aspect of our mental well-being."
110%.
Do you think
100.
that do you think that's important when it comes to giving yourself grace so you can actually get them small wins?
Without a doubt, without a shadow of a doubt. You've got to get, and I've said this to a multitude of my clients and other people who've reached out. You have to make sure that in these situations, you keep these little promises to yourself to give you that ability to see for yourself, not for anyone else. This is the problem, is everyone else is like, okay, well, what do they think about the promise I kept? It doesn't matter.
Mm.
What matters is, did you, right? And if you did, good on you. Okay. Allow yourself grace. Be proud of that. And if you didn't, right, give yourself a bit of grace and go, okay, maybe I set the bar a bit too high, right? What a lot of people have is, especially when they start building a level of positive momentum, is sometimes a level of overt confidence, not arrogance, but overt confidence. Like, ah, yeah, I'll fucking smash this now. It's like, okay, let's see you smash it. I didn't fucking, I was so angry at myself. It's like, because bro, like the bar was here, you went there, just stack it, dude, like walking a staircase, you know, and then you can go from there. But I I I unequivocally mean this. And I said this in threads where I was like, look, you can drink your fucking water, you can go to the fucking gym, you know, you can take your fucking vitamins and all that kind of shit. But if you're not going to deal with the stuff that's going on in your head, you're not actually as healthy as you're giving yourself credit for, you know? And that's not fear mongering, it's just an unequivocal truth, right? Because you can go look at Seneca and all these sorts of philosophers from back in the day where they would say, okay, if the mind is being disobedient, look to the body and vice versa. You know, so it's very, very imperative to understand that physical exercise and being able to do that and keep those promises to yourself allow you to actually build a mental frame that's stronger than what it was previously.
Mm.
You know, when you go into a state where you're being pushed way beyond what you're capable of, but you just refuse to stop, right? You're building a cognitive pattern of like, fucking hell, I'm a capable individual, way more capable than I give myself credit for. You know what I mean? And the way I did that is I just threw myself into the fucking deep end. I was like, fuck it, let's go. See what happens.
And
Would I recommend
sometimes,
that to everyone?
sometimes,
No,
sometimes you have to throw yourself into that deep end.
100%. Because the problem is you've just been wallowing in the shallows for a bit too much
Yeah.
time. So it's like, okay, look, sometimes it's good to go into the deep end. And then people go, well, what if I fail? I'm like, that's the best teacher you've got. Fail, debrief, have someone in your corner who's going to not just keep you accountable, who's going to help you debrief what's going on.
Yeah.
Then what's going to happen is you're not going to put too much pressure on yourself the next time. You're going to go, okay, cool. This was a hole. This is how it's plugged. Right. Maneuver to the next.
Mm. And
Mhm.
also, when you do throw yourself into the deep end, so like a lot of people might just dip their toe in, so they're kind of half in, half out of their goals. But like if we used you as an example, like you literally threw yourself in the deep end. You flew from the UK over to Thailand. You booked you booked in for a fight. Like there's no really going back from there anyway. So there is no like
That
step.
was the point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That was literally the point.
Which is sometimes necessary for people, even though and then in that phase of throwing yourself in the deep end, it was finding the small wins daily to make sure that
Yeah.
you could sustain it.
And respecting the fact that you'll fail
Yeah.
and understand that that's okay, right? It's okay to fail. It's okay to fall short of the mark and then
In what way
again,
did you fail, and in what way was that failure a lesson that you wanted out of this experience?
in what way did I fail? I lost the fight,
Yeah.
for example. I lost the fight, and you'll see on the YouTube of the fight day vlog, I lost the fight, and you see me go backstage, and I say to the coach, I said, I'm sorry, I disappointed you guys, you know? They said, no, you didn't. You didn't disappoint us at all because the way you lost was insane, you know, because it took a spinning elbow uh straight to the fucking dome and completely knocked me out. I don't even remember it. I don't remember it, right? I someone showed me the footage. I was like, oh fuck, that looks bad. And I just remember kind of like waking up, seeing the lights, and I was like, oh shit, I'm in a fight. Get up. You know what I mean? And then I
But
got up.
going over there, was the goal to win a fight, or was the goal to what was the goal? Like in your
Nah,
head?
going over here had nothing to do with wanting to win a fight. It had everything to do with making sure I built a life where my business thrives, and the more I thrive, the more the business thrives, and the more people you can help, as well as being able to show just through being who I am that look, you can have a life you genuinely want, and that's the most beautiful thing. And I've started to see it with my clients. They're like, look, I feel like I'm on a bit of a hamster wheel here. Like, can you help me pivot and maneuver? And I'm like, for sure, not a fucking problem. So many people just kind of put themselves in hamster wheel and be like, okay, that's it. And
Comfortably
it's
enough.
yeah, exactly, exactly. And then you're like that person who's just standing in line when
Yeah,
there's a whole high road right next to you. It's like, this is quicker. Just
yeah,
go
yeah.
for it. Yeah, no,
Sedated by the comfort of not really liking your job, but it's not too bad that you get paid. Sedated by the fact that like, yeah, you're not really happy, but like at least you can go home to your comfy couch and watch Netflix and eat shit.
exactly, exactly. And I would say to anyone who is doing that, I would say, see where that gets you. See where it gets you. Because and I don't mean this in a nasty way, but I will tell you the truth. It's not going to get you very fucking far.
Mm.
And you're not going to be called to bring forth your best. And I think I was saying this on a call with a client, and they won't mind me sharing it. And we were talking about adversity, right? And I explained to them, I said, why do you think the world was created with an adversarial nature? Like, well, why would God or the universe or whatever you want to call it create a world where there's an adversary? Like for example, I'm not trying to get all biblical on you, but for example, why would God create the Garden of Eden and put a snake in it?
Mm.
Well, because maybe the world with an adversary is a better world than one without, because without that, you're never forced to call forth your best. Now, there's a massive metaphysical aspect to that, right? Which is life with adversity, it can be cruel, plain and simple, right? And then people would say, well, okay, well, why is it so cruel? And it's like, what if the adversity or adversary that was set upon you by whatever it may be, God, the universe, whatever it is, right, knew you could win? What if it knew you could win? then you then it's not evil at all because it's forcing you to call forth your best version of who you can possibly be. Because an adversary or an adversarial nature will not be set upon you unless there's an opportunity for you to actually win it,
Mm.
right? The first 3 rounds of the fight, I was winning. The spinning elbow came, his fight IQ started to kick in. He figured out that I couldn't clinch, which is like 50% of fucking Muay Thai. So thanks for not teaching me how to fucking clinch. They were just like, just a heads up, he's a knee and elbow specialist, so he's going to want to clinch with you. So since you don't know how to clinch, just fucking push him away. And so I started pushing the fucking guy away, which led to him actually catching me because his fight IQ was so sharp. So people always go, well, why is there adversity in the world? Well, why is there struggle? Why is there? Because it calls you to bring forth your best,
Mm.
right? And in turn, by you bringing forth your best, you grow proportionally to the adversary you choose to face.
So this brings me on to another one that I was going to quote you on. So people ask me why I'm not sad. It's simple. I reframe it. And that was me wanting to ask you about adversity and reframing shit situations.
Yeah, for sure. So like here's a shit situation, right? So after I got the spinning elbow and I got up, right? And then I think I got up, fucking finished the round pretty strong, and then we got into round four. And in round four, he clocked that I couldn't clinch. So he kept trying to get me against the ropes. And if you're against the ropes, you can only go left or right, you can't go backwards. Right. But he noticed when I was pushing him, I was doing this. So I was dropping my head. And in Muay Thai and a clinch, you want to keep your head as high as possible because if you drop your head, you're going to get a knee, right? And he noticed this, that I was pushing away like this because I'm strong. So I was fucking get away from me, go away, get away from me, cunt, right? And he clocked it and then he hit me with a knee, boom. And as he hit me with a knee, as my head popped up, axe elbow, dish to the top of the dome, right? So I got such bad concussions. I remember going backstage and one of the fighters who's like a top tier fighter was like, can't speak proper English. He's like, people don't really get up from like spinning elbows. Like a normal elbow, yeah, but spinning is like, and he didn't know how to speak English. He's like, skull, is it thicker than normal? Like, you have the thickest. I was like, I don't think so. He was like, ah, okay, but you don't usually get up from that. And I was like, and this leads me to the point that you just said about reframing, which is I currently cannot walk from the waist down. Okay. Because I had got so many leg kicks that I didn't check, which is like blunt force trauma to the legs, right? So imagine if someone taking a baseball bat full swing to your legs multitudes of times, and I tore all the ligaments in my right ankle off the fucking bone because my tactic going in there, because he was a clinch expert, was okay, fucking tee off on him with your boxing and then rip him low, just rip his legs apart as much as you can, right? And then I remember I hit him, I think it was the first round, and boom, I felt a pop and it was all the ligaments. And I was like, okay, fuck this. I'm just going to keep ripping leg kick after leg kick after leg kick because I got an adrenaline dump. And if he can see I'm injured, he's going to go for a low calf kick. Now, I'm fucked from the waist down. I have seizures due to the concussions, right? The other day, I was leant against the wall when full Stephen fucking Hawking fucking fell on the floor, hit my head on the fucking concrete, right? And then I was like cognizant and I was like, just let me like spaz out because someone was there. And then I got up and I was like, okay, that wasn't very nice. Um, I'm gonna, see if I can stack a small win. And there's a lovely, lovely person who was taking care of me was like, let me just help you get to your flat, which is like 100 meters away. But it would take me forever to get there. And I just said, no, let me do it. And they didn't really understand what I meant by that, maybe because of the way in which I communicated it after the seizure,
Yeah.
just I wanted to stack a win straight away, right? So I reframed it. And after the fight, I was like, okay, from here down is fucked. I can't control that, right? But so what? I can work and I can, get back in the mixer and genuinely enjoy it. And I was so excited to get back to work because I love what I do.
The
So
reframe is okay, I can't walk now, but now I have loads of time to do the work that I want to do because I've no other
exactly,
distractions.
exactly. And on top of that, it's like, okay, cool. Maybe I can't do this and that, but hey, I can write, I can read, I can educate, I can help. So fuck it. There's so much opportunity here to level up in another area.
That's a good example for anyone who might be going through some sort of an injury right now. Let's say they've started their fitness journey and they were really excited, and then they ended up, maybe hurting their back or hurting their knee, and it
Yeah,
prevented them from training. It was like, okay, I can't train now, but what does that give me time to do now?
exactly. And it's always, and I say this to people, I say, you can say, woe is me all you want, but that ain't going to do anything but aid your suffering. And the kind of slogan you can call it that I'm adopting right now is, look, pain is inevitable, suffering is a choice.
Mm.
Yeah, okay, I'm in pain, but am I going to choose to fucking bitch and moan about it and be like, oh, yeah, go on, I need an outlet, I need a physical outlet. Nah, like, what's the point? Because all I'm going to do is just fill myself with anxiety and pressure for no reason. Instead, I'm going to go, well, what can I do? And that's what I'm going to focus on.
Mm.
Because at the end of the day, there's no point doing that because all you're doing is increasing your level of pain through suffering.
Yeah, it's such a mindful to truly understand that suffering is a choice. And
Mm.
like once you realize it, I mean, like just like, and even when you realize it, that doesn't mean that like you can still fall into the traps every now and again because it's just something that you have to battle with every day anyway. Like
Yeah, I fall into the trap. Like this morning, I fell into the trap. I was like, oh, there's so much fucking pain. And I was like, yeah, dude, like you are. Like you got into a fucking fight with an absolute beast. Like, cool. So what? Like, good on you. You fucking did what you were supposed to do. And everyone's like, oh, are you okay? And this, I was like, I'm fucking solid. Like, I'm actually really grateful. And they were like, grateful? I was like, yeah, because when I can use my legs again and my fucking Swede is not like fully autistic, I'm gonna feel fucking awesome. And I'm gonna be so much more grateful for the fact that I have use of my legs, that I can actually get on my bike and go to 7-Eleven or go get some food or whatever it may be.
Do you know what that it just came up in my thought process there? Like the people that are able to use like cognitive reframing, like even if you look at an example like during COVID, right? For some people, it was like COVID was like, oh, I'm stuck in my house, I've nothing to do, this is the worst thing in the world. And then for other people, they were like, this is the best thing ever. Now I have time to, learn
Oh,
the piano or
yeah.
just pick up this skill or start this nutrition course or whatever it is. It's like yeah, you just had two different perspectives on something that wasn't in people's control.
Yeah, perception breeds reality. You know what I mean? So I always say to people like, look, if you want to perceive it that way, go for it and see what happens.
Mm,
You know, I'm one of those coaches that I'm like, look, I will show you the correct way, but if you want to take the wrong way, go for it. I'm not going to berate you for it, but when you then learn the hardest way possible rather than the way that you could,
mm.
then debrief it, and then maybe you'll learn from that, and grow. You know, there's
So let's say I'm one of Ryan's clients, right? And I come up now and I be like, Ryan,
oh, a bit of role play. I love it, Carl.
yeah.
Let's share it in the bedroom. Let's go for
I've
it. Come on.
so I've been training for the last 2 weeks. I've been eating well. I've stuck to all my goals. I've got my steps in, and I've after jumping up on the scales, and I'm still the same way. Like, what was the point? This is such a waste of time.
I would literally say, okay, firstly, why was it a waste of time?
Mm.
Pretend you're the client. Why was it a waste of time, Carl?
Well, because I haven't lost the weight that I wanted to lose.
Okay, cool.
I've
But
put all this effort in, and
okay, so
I showed up every single day.
yeah, you showed up every single day. You put all that effort in,
Yes,
right? And the scale isn't moving.
and the scale hasn't moved.
Okay. So does that mean you haven't put credit in the bank? Does that mean you haven't put in the work? Does that mean that you haven't actually done things that you promised yourself to do?
Yeah,
And
I
then
have promised it. I have promised myself to do them and I've done them, but I haven't got the result that I want from it.
okay. Now, if you haven't got the results you want from it, that doesn't mean you're never going to get it.
Mm.
You've got to stay true to your course. Now, if the things are in place appropriately and effectively, you've also got to understand that scale weight is not indicative of whether you're good or bad, right? I have a client that weighs exactly the same and looks totally different. Totally different.
Mm.
So getting bogged down on the fact that, you're a little bit heavier on the scale and completely ignoring all the other wins you just stacked is
That's it, isn't it? It's ignoring everything else in your life because your narrow focus is on one thing, and then you've put all your eggs into one basket and spread yourself too thin.
100%. And people always make the mistake of thinking, okay, well, this is not working. In what world do you think it's not working?
Mm.
Explain it to me. Well, the scale's not moving. Okay, but does that mean you're not building muscle? Does that mean you're not overcoming temptation? Does that mean you're not building a level of discipline?
Yeah.
Does that mean you're not
Do you
strengthening
feel
one?
healthier? Has your mood improved? Are you a better person to be around now?
Exactly.
Do you feel more
Exactly.
productive? Are you able to fall asleep a little bit easier now because you've had a productive day that you've got out and got some sunlight on your face, you've trained hard, you've put yourself to the test, like all these things that we forget about.
Yeah, and that's the thing is you'll want to focus on the one thing rather than focusing on all the other things that you've actually built. And then you don't realize this concrete foundation you built because you're so focused on one thing, right? And any good coach will eventually make the scale move when appropriate, right? So the point I'm making is one, don't get bogged down by a number. You are not the scale weight. You are not the number on the fucking scale. You are more than that. There is more to you. There's more to you than that. Can you not see that? No. Okay, cool. Let me show you, right? So I'll show you a few areas where you've improved. Genuinely speaking, if you haven't improved, it's on me to tell you that truth, right? But I'll show you where you have improved. I'll show you a few, and then I want you to give me three back, right? And start to build that cognitive positive pattern, right? Because they are nowhere near failing. They are nowhere near as far away from the goal as they think they are. So for example, and me throwing a shitty switch kick, right? I was like, okay, it's shit right now. But I wasn't like, oh, it's fucking shit, and I throw a strop or anything like that. I was like, okay, cool. I'm gonna keep practicing until I get it right, no matter what. And I never focused on the fact that, oh, I had a shit switch kick. Because you'll see in the fight, I throw a really decent one because he
Yeah,
hits me with a good kick. And I was just like, I'm just gonna keep practicing it.
yeah.
Because listen, things don't happen like that for you, right? That's not the way it works. If it happens like that, it's gonna go like that,
Yeah.
and it needs to be sustainable and understandable.
And then it's also important to understand that a switch kick is one move of thousands of moves that you can do. So again, if you're defining your ability on just a switch kick, again, you're spreading yourself too thin.
Exactly. And if you're defining yourself by just the name, the metric on the scale,
Yeah,
you're really doing yourself a disservice because there's more to you than that.
yeah.
Like a simple thing I would say is this is, okay, well, let me ask you this. You feel like shit, right? Yeah, I feel like shit. Okay, cool. If you go to the gym, do you think you'll feel worse? I don't think I'll feel worse. Okay, cool. I can guarantee you won't feel worse and you'll probably feel better. So why not give it a crack? And then all of a sudden, you build a positive cognitive pattern, and that person, is getting an endorphin kick, the serotonin kick, etc., which in turn motivates them to keep going in alignment with what they're looking to achieve.
Yeah. You're focusing on how you feel rather than what you can get.
Exactly. And if you focus on how you feel rather than what you can get, eventually you're going to get what you want.
And this comes on to something I was going to ask you about as well, was to talk about embracing the journey over the destination, and when it comes to whether that's fat loss perspective or your experience at fight camp.
Yeah, so we can go through both there. So in terms of the fight camp, right, I'll never forget this. And I'll never forget this the day I die. One of my teachers, coaches, or whatever you want to call them, his name's Ahmed. And it was about 7 days out from the fight. And I was, stressed and stuff like that. And he had a chat to me and he said, listen, you only ever have your first Muay Thai fight once.
Mm.
You'll never have your first Muay Thai fight again, right? All the pressure, all the anxiety, everything you're feeling, drink it in. Drink it all in, mate, because you will never be able to experience your first fight again. Whether you win or lose is irrelevant. You'll never be able to experience your first fight again, ever. So embrace the fucking process, embrace the journey, right? Feeling nervous? Yeah, okay, cool. Like, that's fine. Like, you're feeling fucking scared. Yeah, you should be scared. You're about to go into a ring and fucking bang with a dude. Like, of course you're going to be scared, but embrace it. Like, just drink it in, the good and the bad, and really, really be present and actually feel it. You know what I mean? And by doing that, it allowed me to embrace the journey and actually alleviated a little bit of pressure because I was like, cool, I'm just going to focus on that session. I'm just going to focus on that sparring round, and
And,
it's
and
same.
like you touched on, a big word you said there was being present.
Yeah, like if you're not gonna be present in the journey, by the time you get to the destination, you're gonna regret not enjoying the journey.
Yeah. And you're not thinking ahead if you're being present anyway.
No, you're thinking right here, right now, and guess what? You all of a sudden your periphery goes from this to this,
Mm.
and you're seeing everything and you're drinking everything in, and it's like fuck, life is not actually this pressure cooker.
No.
You know what I mean? It's
We just
actually more
make it
than
that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
And
We make it.
this goes on to another quote that I was going to touch on with you. And you wrote that your stress is not the problem, it's how you use it.
Yes, 110%. Stress is inevitable in life, right? You will always have a level of stress. It's understanding the difference, right? You have eustress and distress, right? So distress is where like you're just completely overwhelmed, pretty much burnt out, and you just can't hack it. Like there's too much going on. And eustress is a healthy level of stress that allows you to perform at a higher level, right? For example, when I was nervous before rugby games, and I brought this into my Muay Thai as well, I would just reframe it and go, nerves are nothing but excitement in disguise. That's all it is. It keeps me sharper, keeps me focused. Okay, this is good, right? That's eustress, right? Distress is where it's like everything is just too much. I just can't deal with anything. And then it's like, okay, but let's break it down, right? Stress is inevitable. So let's make sure we break it down into bite-sized chunks that are stress factors that you can actually handle and start to build from that, right? But when people go, look, I want to live a life stress-free, I go, good luck.
Mm.
Good luck. You never will. There will always be a stress factor, right? Discerning the difference between the two and understanding when you're erring on the side of distress versus eustress is super important, right? Because eustress is actually very healthy. It's very good for you and it drives you, right? Whereas distress just buckles you and breaks you. You know what I mean? I'm not going to lie, getting close to that fight, there was a lot of distress that I just framed as eustress. I was just, fuck it, I'm doing it. There's no going back. End of discussion. Like I just cut and dry it, So when they told me about the opponent and stuff like this and all this kind of stuff, and then I remember someone being like, "Oh, I found his Instagram. Do you want to see it?" And I remember feeling a pit in my stomach, and I was like, "Fucking show me." And it's him fucking tearing off on dudes and stuff like that. And I was like, "Yeah, I've seen enough." I've seen enough. And then, my coaches obviously were able to have a look at it and be like, okay, cool, this is what he's good at. So make sure you use your boxing because your boxing is really sharp. And then just chop him up because you have big legs, just rip him apart down there. And that's exactly what I did. After the fight when we spoke, he said, I'm gonna have to get like reconstructive surgery on my knee because you've absolutely destroyed it. And I was just like, oh, I'm so sorry. So, it's important to understand that, look, stress is always going to be there. It's
Yeah.
making sure that you're not going to a level of distress and use stress, and you can do that by just breaking things down into bite-sized fractions. Very
Um,
simply.
I wanted to ask you about Maxwell's theory of change because it's something that I haven't heard about, and I'm interested to for you to tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so Maxwell theories of change is essentially three or four, if I remember correctly, different aspects of catalysts that cause people to change, right? And with Maxwell's theories of change, what he essentially alludes to is that, look, you'll get put in a position where you'll be forced to change, right? Whether that be the death of a loved one or, you're at rock bottom, whatever it may be, you'll be like, okay, I need a change, right? And essentially with Maxwell's theory of change, what he's essentially alluding to is life is happening to you, not for you, right? And it's forcing you to change. It's making you extremely uncomfortable, anxious, nervous, scared, fearful, whatever it means to change, to action a level of change, to make a maneuver, right? To actually change something in your life. The issue with Maxwell theories of change is don't let it get to that point,
Yeah.
right?
Well, like we talked about being comfortable, being numb, being sedated by your own comforts until it gets to a point where it's so uncomfortable that you're like, oh my God, how did I get here? How did I get here? And I'm 20 kilos overweight. How did I get here? And I absolutely can't stand another day at my job. How did I get here? And I'm in a relationship with someone that I can't stand.
Yeah, often in a relationship with the boyfriend's beating the shit out of me or
Yeah.
whatever it may be. It's like, okay, cool. This is where you've gone to a point where you have no choice but to change. And the main premise here is don't get to that point, but Maxwell alludes to that as well. He says it also happens when someone knows they want to change,
Mm,
right? And that want and that desire to change is bigger than what's going on around them.
mm,
Okay. Which means that they will go, okay, I need to action change here, right? But again, what I'll always allude to is don't let it get to that point. You don't need to get to rock bottom to realize that you need to change, right? You need to make sure you understand, and it goes with everything, right? Like discomfort and be pushing yourself out your comfort zone. If you don't voluntarily choose to push yourself out your comfort zone, life will do it for you
yeah,
and it'll pick it. And trust me, if life does it for you,
it'll be
it's
worse.
way fucking worse
Yeah.
than if you chose. Whereas if you choose, life will be like, all right, okay, look, you're trying to grow here. You're embracing discomfort and you're trying to grow. I'll sit back here.
Mm.
Whereas if you're just like, you just wait, mate. Someone's gonna fuck in, and then you're gonna want to change. Yeah.
How do people start embracing getting out of their comfort zone more? Like, I mean, it seems like it comes very natural to you where it's like, all right, I'm just gonna get up and move to a completely different country again and go into a completely different environment again. Um, how do people get to the stage where they're like voluntarily seeking out discomfort?
That's a fucking good question. I'm not too sure.
Yeah.
I think if you want me
Aware
to be,
it must have to come with awareness.
it does. Like awareness, as soon as awareness is bred, then change will become an actionable, tangible thing for that person.
Mm,
But what I would say is discomfort allows you to be more comfortable in a larger epicenter. So, let's say this is your comfort zone, okay? Pushing yourself just slightly out your comfort zone allows your comfort zone to be larger. Now, if you seek solace in your comfort zone, why wouldn't you want it to be bigger? Well, the
mm,
only way you're going to make it bigger and you're going to force that growth is by just taking a step out of it. Now, do you need to do what I did and chuck yourself in the fucking deep end all the time? No. You can literally just make a small incremental change. I
yeah.
remember us preluding to this with like someone who, let's say, has extreme gym anxiety. It's like, just get to the door.
Yeah.
That's its comfort zone,
Yeah.
right? Now, all of a sudden, your realm of comfort has expanded, right? And in turn, what that means is you yourself have expanded
Mm,
and grown, right? And you start to uncover things and traits and virtues and belief systems in yourself that you never thought you had
mm. I
ever.
I was I did a podcast with a girl called Jean Lally, and she is an anxiety therapist. And I asked her, it's like because I would have a couple of friends who have like severe social anxiety, and really haven't. done much with their lives and, just quite comfort. And I asked, like, how, if someone is that closed in where everything scares them, like, how do you get someone to get out of their comfort zone? And she said, just like you, it's like the smallest of change, whatever
Yeah.
that is, and just celebrate it. Like, so if you have social anxiety where you can't even like hold a conversation with a stranger, it's like the goal is to get outside your door and just look someone in the eyes, and if you do that two or three times, that's your win, and you celebrate that. And like, people will feel silly for celebrating it, but it's like you should not feel silly for celebrating that, because that's your mountain. Just like for you it might be, fighting
Getting to
it.
the toilet, bro.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it like like for some people it will be, getting into a ring in Thailand, with some absolute machine. For someone else, it might literally be saying hello to the shopkeeper.
Yeah, literally. And there's this awesome, I'm busy building it out, social anxiety challenge, right? Where I prelude to it by saying, look, what you got to remember is when you're walking in the street, everyone is in their own head, right? Everyone is not actually looking at you. You're not, and this sounds really harsh, you're not that fucking important that everyone is staring at you, right? Everyone else is doing exactly what you're doing. They're in their own head, like, oh my God, is this person looking at me for this reason? And in actuality, they're in their own head
Yeah.
because they're doing life for themselves, right? Which is totally okay. And when you understand that, you understand that, look, by going out and about, these people aren't looking at me going, oh my God, who is this person? They're just in their own fucking head, thinking the exact same thing you are, which is like, is he looking at me like what's going on? And then developing a challenge, which is something as simple as being like, say hello to the shopkeeper. I did this when I was super nervous when it came to speaking to things that I feared the most, which just came in the form of pretty girls because they scared the shit out of me. And I would just do little things, and I would just be like, okay, cool. What you're gonna do is you're gonna hold the conversation, and you're gonna make sure you make eye contact, and you're gonna remember the color of the person's eyes.
Mm.
You know?
It's like you said as well. It's like when people are trying to achieve something, they set the bar too high. So let's say the goal is to get a girlfriend or to get someone's number. It's like, so maybe that's too big of a jump for you right now to ask a girl for her number. But what you could do is just compliment them and then walk away.
Exactly. Like you could do exactly that. And that's what I mean is that small incremental change leads to exponential growth, and that's what's so important to realize is you don't need to solve all the problems of the world in one sitting. It's just not going to happen that way, and it's not going to happen with your problems, whoever you may be, right? But you could take a small step forward, right? There's a saying by Rumi, which is the 1,000-mile road is walked one step at a time, and it's literally that simple. It's like, look, if I'm taking one step, it's still fucking progress. Like that is still an increment of progress, right?
And you can only
And
take one step.
yeah, exactly. And I think it was Sun Tzu who said, don't be afraid of going slowly, just be afraid of not moving,
Mm.
and that's imperative because whether you're going slow or fast is irrelevant. The point is you're going towards something. You're striving towards a worthy aim. You're aiming up, and if you're not trying to aim up, you're kneecapping yourself because you're not bringing forth the best that you have to offer in the world, and there's only one of you. So what you're essentially doing is you're kneecapping yourself and preventing the world from seeing who you truly could be in the most fundamental sense. And why would you starve the world of the quality that you can give? Why would you starve the world of the best version of you? Because being the best version of you has a butterfly effect on everyone. I see this because I work with mothers as well, where they'll start going on walks and the little ones will start going on walks with them.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And
copying their
that is
behavior.
exactly, and then all of a sudden you see a butterfly effect that you have on people, and it doesn't need to be monumental, but by the same token, all of a sudden you're having a positive effect as a byproduct of focusing on you and trying to bring forth your best in the world, however that may look, and that's what's so important for people to understand. And it kind of, if you don't do that, you're not just doing yourself a disservice, but the world. Because what you can bring into the world, no one else can. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here in the first fucking place. But thinking that, living small is, the best thing to do prevents you from essentially bringing forth your best, because the best version of you is the highest functioning version of you, and that best version of you will have a profound impact on those around you. The
That
low functioning version of you will negatively impact those around you.
Yeah, that Maxwell's change makes so much sense to me because it's like I'm just thinking of even a certain person at this moment, and it's like I know that that person is in pain. I know that that person is so in their comfort zone. It's unbelievable, and they're not doing anything about it yet. Like, but it's obviously not at the stage where it's as painful that it's going to ignite some sort of energy to try and solve the problem. And then I also think about like if that person tries to solve this problem on their own and not understand that it's small increments of progress over time and little small wins. And like the best way um to embody that is to have some sort of a coach or a mentor or someone who can remind you that you don't have to kind of shoot for the stars. It can be like them little small wins of just saying hello to someone or something like that. I think that's imperative as well on that journey as well. If you're gonna succeed, is that like you have some sort of emotional support of some sort.
Without a fucking shadow of a doubt. Like, there's this, I say this to my clients, and I say this with the most fundamental truth, like genuinely from the fucking heart, which is I say this to them. I say, look, if you can't carry your cross on this journey, right? The moment you collapse, I'll pick it up. When you've regained your strength, I'm going to give it back to you. And then I'm going to walk with you. The moment you collapse again, we're going to pick it up. We're going to find out why you collapsed. We're going to wait for you to regain your strength. And then we're going to put it back on your back. And we're going to keep walking together. And then the moment that you can carry that shit yourself and you're in the Coliseum, I'm in the stands cheering you on. And I'm saying that's fucking awesome. You know? And it's imperative that people understand that you can't take someone's problem from them, because then you're preventing them from actually
Yeah,
being able to grow from it.
yeah.
You've got to
It
be
has to
able
be
to say,
there.
okay, it's got to be you. Like, I've got a specific person in mind as well. And they were brilliant because I got on a call with them and they said, look, I want to voluntarily confront the trauma that I incurred from my mother. And I was like, that is beautiful, beautiful, right? Because I can't force you. And I said to her, I said, why do you think I haven't mentioned your mother? Because you've got to want to do it.
Yeah.
I can't force you to, you see? And because of the confidence you're building in the gym, filming your form videos when she was like so scared to film them in the first place. Now she's like, I don't even give a fuck. That confidence has allowed her to go, you know what, actually, I've gone from level 1 to level 2, right? And level 2, there's a bit of a bigger boss, right? And I don't want to have the wounds that were caused by, what happened in the past to then bleed on my partner or my kids. You know what I mean? And that was one of the most awesome calls, because she was like, yeah, I want to do that. And I say this, it sounds like a fucking slogan because it rhymes, because the deeper you go, the more you're going to grow, without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
But make sure you go to a depth that you think you can handle first. Give yourself proof of concept,
Yeah,
you
I think
know?
I think that's such a good point in terms of like that person came with the problem that they wanted to solve. Because I think so many times, whether it's coaches to clients or whether it's just people in general, we try to force people into change that they're not ready for, and it will never come. And you see that even with like family members or something. Like a family member tells someone, oh, you should probably do this, or you should probably get in shape, or you should probably, go for this job. And like the more you push someone to change, the more they're actually going to resist it.
100%. And that reminds me of a call out of the client. And she's starting to build a life for herself that she actually enjoys, right? So she's handed a resignation at her job, and she's going to move to Abu Dhabi and then maybe Bali or whatever it may be, right? And she went home and back to Ireland, and the Irish, you guys have big families,
Yeah.
right? And I said, just bear in mind when you go home that your family and stuff like that are not going to understand. Okay, then they're not going to understand. And then she said to me, she said, yeah, they said this, why don't you do this? It's safe for this, that, and the other. And I just said to her, I said, okay, look at their life. Do you want it? Fuck no. I was like, okay, so why are you holding any weight to what they're saying?
Mm.
You know, you live your life on your terms. What's going to make you happy? What's going to bring you good income? What's going to fulfill you? You, not your family, and stay firm in your boundaries and just be like, yeah, this is what I'm doing,
Yeah.
because if you look at that person's life, say, do I want that? And if it's a no, then there's no point necessarily listening to that person to a degree, and it's very, very important that people understand that because what tends to happen is, uh, this is a bit of a juxtaposition, but I've always found it difficult to market the amount of exponential change mentally, emotionally, and even in the job space that some of my clients have.
Yeah, it's
It's like,
it's nearly impossible to
yeah,
market.
it's like there's no before or after for that.
No, no, no.
It-
There's no visible metric.
yeah, and you see these messages come through. So I'll share the messages, with permission, obviously.
Yeah.
And
And even then,
and
it doesn't give it justice because even though it is a message and but like you can't capture in a message
the
everything.
actual like
Yeah,
amazing transformation that this
yeah,
person has
yeah.
gone through.
And all these domains that it ripples into, or
Yeah,
you can't capture how someone feels. It's
yeah.
difficult.
It's a tricky one, and it's one that there was a part of me that got a little bit frustrated actually. And then I kind of was like, look, there's no point getting frustrated at it because at the end of the day, you do what is yours to do. Nothing else should concern you.
Yeah,
But I was like, I look at that and you look at not only your ability to be able to do that for people, right? Which is a God-given gift. So, thanks to the fucking man upstairs rather than me. But you look at that and then you see that and you see how amazing it is. And you're like, why would people opt for a fucking coach who's just like, yo, I'll get you 10,
yeah.
20 pounds off my
But that's when ego and validation appears. It's ugly head, isn't it? Because it's like I've done a good job, but now I feel the need to for other people to know about it. And
Yeah,
I know
exactly.
that's important in terms of a marketing perspective and to actual build the business. So I understand that. But it's a trap that we can fall into. It's like, all right, am I
Yeah.
doing this? Because in a sense, you are doing it for you because you're doing it for your business, but in another sense, you're just doing it to help improve that person.
Yeah, so I would say this, like this is how I see it is, are you trying to genuinely make a better impact in the world? Now, if you're trying to fucking do that, more power to you.
Mm.
Good. And yeah, rightfully so. You should be able to build your business, create a good income and stuff so you can scale it further and help more fucking people
Yeah,
in the most fundamental sense.
yeah,
And the way I kind of combat the hubris and pride of being able to share a win is I always make sure I say, and I genuinely mean, these wins are your own.
yeah,
You did this,
yeah.
not me. You did it. I was just the sat nav. You were the driver. If you didn't drive, I couldn't get you to the destination. So your win is your own. Celebrate it as yours, right? I'm just here to celebrate it with you. And yeah, it is good marketing, but by the same token, again, it goes back, for me at least, it goes back to ethics. It
Yeah.
goes back to actually genuinely, okay, are you actually trying to help these people in the most fundamental sense and make the world a better place and these people the best version of themselves? And if you're trying to do that, what more?
If your sole purpose was just to rinse out as much as you can from the world in terms of a fitness business, you would probably just do transformational photos all day long and put people on ridiculously low calories. And if you get 100 people in and 5 people get a good transformation, you just blast that out.
Yeah, and that's why, and I know me and you have both seen this. That's where business owners and stuff start to sip their own sauce, and you watch their whole business implode. You just watch it fucking implode.
Well,
Yeah,
you can only sell shit to someone once,
yeah,
you know. So
exactly. You can only shovel shit to that person once. Like,
then
don't
they're gonna
don't
know.
underestimate people. They ain't fucking stupid.
No.
You know what I mean? And it actually irks me that people buy into that because I'm like, shit, I can like just don't do it, man. Just,
Yeah.
you know?
But you've been in the industry so long, of course you're gonna see it's someone who doesn't really have any care for fitness. They're gonna be the ones that are susceptible to these kind of crafty marketing tricks, at least once anyway.
Yeah, there's a really good book by Fyodor Dostoevsky. It's called Crime and Punishment. And the reason why it's such a good book is the guy does a heinous crime, but he gets away with it scot-free, right? So he does it, he gets away with it. There's no repercussions, from the police or anything of the sort, right? But watch what happens to him and his conscience. It starts to rip him apart, and it's a very, very impactful is the best way to put it book because you see, look, hey, you can get away with the crime, but trust me, it's going to be on your conscience and you're going to punish yourself more so than you ever could get punished anyway.
Yeah, so you haven't really got away with it. You've got away with it in one aspect, but not in another.
Because your conscience will rip you apart. And if it doesn't, other people will, no matter what. And that's what's so insane. And that book, it fucking lines your moral compass so quickly. It puts your moral compass in place so fucking fast. You know what I mean? Um, for a long period of time, without a shadow of a doubt, you just won't, because if you don't get caught, trust me, you will end up punishing yourself
All
without a
right,
shadow.
I have 3 more questions for you, and these are the wisdom rounds for Ryan.
All right,
All right,
fucking
all
let it
right.
rip.
So first question I want to ask you is, what has been your greatest failure, and how did it shape the person you are today? Difficult question, I know, to be put on the spot.
My greatest failure. Shit. I'd say my greatest failure is allowing my darker side, my more malignant nature to take hold at a younger age
Hmm.
and cause a lot of detriment to people who didn't deserve it. And what I learned from that was understanding that you possess both light and dark and being able to control that and have it under voluntary control and only use it when necessary if you're in a fight or flight situation, whatever it may be, is imperative. That was probably one of my greatest failures, but also biggest lessons. As I said, failure is your friend, and do I regret the pain I caused at such a young age to people around me? Yes, I do. But by the same token, I'm also deeply appreciative of understanding the depth of the evil that I'm capable of and being able to control it.
Yeah.
That was one of my biggest failures and in turn biggest lessons. And I've never deviated from that since. And that happened to me when I was, in my adolescence,
Hmm.
without a doubt, you know.
It's something that you can battle with every single day, or every single choice that you make on a daily basis, really, isn't it? Like whether to be kind or to be nasty, whether regardless of what it is.
Yeah, like, and I'll give you a simple example recently. Like, as I said, I got a little bit pissed off by the fact that sometimes people can't see the level of not quality you produce, but the level of impact that you're going to have on other people's lives. Like, why the fuck wouldn't you want that? And it's like, don't be like that, Ryan. Like, don't buy into that. That's a darker side.
Yeah.
That's resentment, excuse me. And that's not who you are. Instead, keep fighting the good fucking fight. Keep doing the right thing, irrespective of how hard it may be.
Mm.
And even if it's not being rewarded, right? You go back to old Marcus Aurelius, virtue in and of itself is its own reward. So am I doing the right thing? Irrespective of how difficult or hard it is it the right thing? Yes, then do it.
And I think that's the most powerful question you can probably ask yourself just on a daily basis of anything you're doing.
Yeah. But you've also always got to remember that failure is not the end.
No,
Do
and
not regret the
that
fact
comes
that you
back to the
failed.
that comes back to the grace that we spoke
Yeah.
about.
Yeah. Like look at it, observe it, see it for what it was, understand it, control it, and then make sure that it's used for good and not evil. Like a simple example is guys, like we can use men as a simple example who haven't got control of their dark side. Look at the damage that they can cause.
Mhm.
I'm fully aware of the damage I can cause. The fuck am I going to do that? Instead, I'm going to do the exact inverse and I'm going to make change. I've got 2 tattoos on my collarbones. One says instrument of inspiration or tool of destruction. And the reason why I have that there is because I like, no, look, there's both sides to me here, you know, or is there always err on the right side, not the wrong side? And if the wrong side has to come out, it better come out at the most appropriate time, when
Yeah,
it's necessary, otherwise you keep it in a lock cage like an angry dog,
yeah. Because
you know.
it's like hate and anger. Once it gets out of the box, you can't get it back in.
No,
So
and you burn everything around you, including people you may care about.
yeah. That's when you see like massacres and murders of like someone who might have been a respectable person, but once they lose it, you know,
Yeah, like I studied, this was like so hard to study, but I studied all the documents and the writings of school shooters
yeah,
in all over the world, but specifically in America. A lot of them would actually write about what they were going to do and why they were going to do it. And it came from something as simple as being rejected by a girl
yeah,
or something like that.
resentment,
Then
like you
yeah,
said.
and then the resentment builds and then they get angrier and angrier. And instead of going, okay, like, look, being rejected is okay. Not everyone needs to like me, and start to move forward in a positive way. They just build this anger and this resentment until it gets to the point where they get nihilistic in nature, which
Mm,
is like, well, nothing actually means anything anyway. So if I kill all these fucking people, who fucking cares? And, reading through those was harrowing. And it
yeah.
was enough for me to be like, Jesus, like that. You know what I mean? And yeah, that led to sleepless nights, but it was so important for me to do that, to understand, um, because Jordan B. Peterson says it best, if you gaze long enough into the abyss, it gazes back at you. But the argument is you haven't gazed long enough,
Mm,
you know, to actually see, because there's a part in there that is so beautiful and so exponential in you, because the darker you are on one side, the lighter you can be on the other,
mm.
So yeah, I'd say that is the
Well,
biggest
that's
failure.
that's the kind of beauty of redemption as well, isn't it?
Yeah, redemption, repentance, whatever you want to call it. It's like, okay, well, I'm not here to try and make up for what I did, but I'm here to learn from what I did and then make sure that I can teach people that, look, that is there, especially with someone who's naive or says, I'm just a good person. I'm like, no, you're just a fucking coward. And they get all pissy at me. And I go, well, I'll tell you why you're a fucking coward. Because you've never experienced the darkness within you. You never let it take hold or seen it truly. So therefore, you can't sit here and say you're a good person because you're trying to strive to stay in the light.
Yeah, you're not a good person. You just haven't had the opportunity to do bad things.
Exactly. You're just ignorant.
Yeah, yeah. Second one, what's a belief you held firmly in the past that you've since changed your mind about?
What's a belief that I felt firmly in the past that I have now changed my mind about? Don't try heal people who don't want help.
Hmm. Is that something that you fell into the trap of doing when you were younger?
No, even younger and as I got a little bit older, it's
Yeah,
like, look, like I'll never forget a saying from like Hippocrates or whatever. It said, before healing someone, ask if they're willing to give up the things that make them sick.
yeah,
Like I'm not going to try help you if you're resistant to help itself. It's wasted energy on my behalf
yeah.
and wasted energy in general. There's no
And
point in
doesn't help probably doesn't help the person either because
because they don't want help.
no.
No, they just want a slap in the ass and someone to be nice and not kind, and that's not going to help someone. That's not going to help someone grow.
Hmm.
And that's led me to always be fair in judgment, but ruthlessly honest. Where I'll be like, look, you fucked up, and you got some making up to do for it or whatever it may be, because I'm not going to pull a punch. If I fucked up, putting my hand up, look, I fucked up, no matter what, and
Fucked
that
up,
is something.
fucked up, and then be willing to be like, I fucked up. Help me to do better, and being able to
Yes,
actually
help me
ask.
exactly. It's like I fucked up, or I've done something I shouldn't have done. Does that define me? No. But what you do next does.
Yeah.
Every juncture in your life, you have a choice. The moment you think you don't have a choice, you haven't looked hard enough. There's always a choice. Always. It's just the ability to make the right one. And if you don't know, that's okay. Start to learn. And if you can't learn and you don't understand it, find someone who does. Like, even when I was getting ready for my fight, I had an MMA coach on purpose, right? Ali McLean's, great guy, you know, and I had him as my MMA coach on purpose because I was like, look, doing this alone is dumb.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do it alone.
Yeah.
And discerning the difference between being a consumer versus an investor, buying a pair of shoes or investing in something. When you invest in something, all you're doing is going to make yourself better, make yourself more of an asset, and actually in turn bring a huge ROI, whether it be financial, physical, mental, or all of the above.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas when you start to discern, okay, well, where am I being a consumer versus an investor? And you can see where you're being a consumer, start to cut that shit out if necessary.
Mm.
because you're your biggest asset.
Yeah.
Build it.
And that also comes from awareness as well, again.
You have to breed that. If you don't breed, I always say this to people. I go, look, even if you fucked up, are you aware of how?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, this is how. Or no, I'm not. Can you show me? Of course I can show you. And I'm not going to rip you apart about it. It's okay. Name one person who didn't make a mistake.
Yeah.
I'll wait. It's impossible.
A lot of people who do the most damage aren't even aware that they're doing damage around them.
That's the scary thing.
Yeah.
And that's why I always am so forthright with being like, look, you fucked up here. Not with my clients. I won't be like, look, you fucked up. I'll be like, look, what happened?
Yeah.
I'll leave it with empathy. But
It's
in my
usually
personal,
them that come to you and say, I fucked up more so than the reverse,
yeah,
I'd imagine. Yeah, yeah.
exactly. And in that situation, you know that you're your own harshest critic. So you don't need to get on top of that.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
need to be like, and start, fucking whipping them away.
yeah,
So you're like, okay, yeah, you did fuck up. That's okay though.
yeah.
As long as we can move forward from it, how? Let's unpack it. Let's fix it. Let's put a protocol in place to make sure it doesn't happen again, and let's move forward.
Mm.
You're not the was it Carl Jung who said it best, where he said something like something I'm gonna completely paraphrase here because I can't remember verbatim, but
Yeah.
it was along the lines of I'm not what I used to be, I am who I choose to become, or something like that. I'm not my past, I am who I choose to become. So yeah, you can fuck up. It's okay. Nate, like I fucked up, you fucked up, everyone has. But you make a choice and you go, okay, cool. Let me unpack that. Let me see what happened and let me grow from it.
Yeah.
Or buy into it and just go into your dark side and see where that leads you.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Last one I want to ask you. So, what do you think are the most underrated qualities of a truly successful life?
Oh, that's a fucking good question. What are the most underrated qualities of a truly successful life?
And then
Uh,
you're also gonna have to add on to that what you define as a truly successful life in your own perspective.
okay, so we'll start with that. A truly successful life is one that's lived. The best way to put it is the Japanese phrase of ikigai, right? Which is purpose, fulfillment, and contribution to community as well as financial fulfillment, right? That is the definition of success. You're making the world a better place, you're earning money from doing it, and you're contributing to the betterment of your fellow man, right? So that is what success is to me personally. Okay. And the other part, what was it again?
And then what do you think are the underrated qualities to create a successful life in terms of how you see it?
Gratitude, presence, perseverance, and patience.
Mm.
You've got to be grateful irrespective of the station you're in because there's always something to be grateful for,
Yeah.
right? You got to persevere in the face of adversity irrespective because you're going to grow, right? You've got to be resilient. And if you're not resilient, that's okay. You can build that.
Yeah.
And you've also got to be patient and you've got to be kind to yourself, right? And you've got to allow yourself a little bit of grace and be patient enough to go, okay, this is going to work. It's going to take time.
Well, how do you become more patient? I think I know what you're going to say because you have faith in the process.
Yeah, like what I would say is to become more patient, the only way that you can build that skill is by having it tested.
Yeah.
So the more it's tested and the more you can see that that's your patience being tested, the more you have to go, okay, this is the opportunity to be patient,
Mm.
right? This is the opportunity to go, okay, practice patience here. I want now be patient, soon, soon. There was there's a series called The Chosen. It's brilliant. It's about Jesus. God, to sound like such a Bible freak here. But he's always talking to his disciples like, when's this gonna happen? When's this gonna happen? And all he ever says is soon. It's gonna happen soon. And when? That's your problem. When it's supposed to.
Mm.
Soon.
When you stop asking.
Yeah, when you stop asking, it'll probably get given.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's what makes a truly successful life. And understanding this, I was actually speaking to my mom about this yesterday, is understanding that when you accrue money, wealth, and all these sorts of things, what are you doing with it? Are you contributing to the betterment of the world? Like you live a good quality of life, that's important first, right? Square yourself away,
Yeah.
right? Then pour money into a business that is actually making the world a better place, right? Be able to look out and look after your loved ones, protect, provide, and be there for them, right? And I think that's imperative. My mom was like, you don't have to feel like you need to do that. It's like, I don't feel I need to. I want to.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to. Being a parent is the most selfless fucking sacrifice anyone can make.
Yeah.
I want to be able to provide. I want to be able to.
I've been on this now for the last couple of months because all I see all over social media all the time is being like, uh, we don't have to have kids, we don't have to have families, it's too expensive in this economy. It's more kind not to have kids because you don't want to bring them up in this terrible society. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You were brought up in this society, and they're like, "Well, I had an awful life." And I was like, "Okay, well, do you still, like, have you had moments in your life where you've like had real joy?" And they're like, "Yeah." And like, I was literally having this argument with someone online who was literally in Bali enjoying
I
themselves.
love watching you argue with people online. It's fucking.
I was like, okay, so they were complaining about how their mum and dad were bastards and that they didn't raise them right and stuff like that. I was like, hold on, okay, they might have been bastards and you might have had a terrible upbringing, but I mean, like, I'm sure you still appreciate being here right now. You're fucking in Bali, and like, and they couldn't get that concept that like that we should reproduce.
Yeah, what I would say there is I can understand why people wouldn't want to bring people up in a society like this, but I would caveat it with this, right? You can't control society, right? You can't control all that kind of stuff, but you can control yourself.
Yeah.
And if you bring forth your best as a parent,
Yes.
that child is going to be raised beautifully.
Yeah, and that was
And
my other point. I was like, okay, so you know what it's like to be brought up with a terrible childhood. So what could you do differently? Could you give someone a gift that you didn't get to receive?
exactly, like it's so fundamental that people understand that because it's not the society that's going to mold you as much as it is the parental raising.
Yeah,
And it just goes back to the one analogy that everyone knows is the alcoholic father analogy. I had two kids,
yeah,
right? One of them became an alcoholic and the other one didn't. And when they were asked the same question, one said, "My dad was an alcoholic, and so did the other."
yeah. So
You know?
I wasn't gonna be that for
Yeah, I
society.
chose not to be that. So what you then do is then you raise people in a broken society, so to speak, that are going to repair it, that
Hmm.
are going to contribute to the betterment of it,
Yeah,
right? And you're taking on a burden and I wouldn't say burden, a responsibility to be able to do that,
yeah.
irrespective of the station you're at.
And that responsibility probably gives you purpose that you didn't have before.
And purpose you probably needed if you didn't have it.
Yeah,
You've got to have, again, okay, successful life, purpose.
yeah,
You've got to have a purpose. And my purpose is clear as fucking day. And I stand by it no matter what, which is I want to make the world a better place and I want to bring forth the best in people no matter what. And I will do that. I don't give a fuck. I will do that no matter what. And there's times you're like, fuck, why would people go with a coach that's just like, yeah, I'm just going to help you lose 10 kilos? It's like, look, I'm not even going to help you lose 10 fucking kilos. I'm also going to make sure you know how to do that so you never need a fucking coach again. And on top of that, why do you want to lose 10 kilos?
yeah,
I want to feel more confident. Okay, well, why do you want to feel more confident? Oh, because I'm insecure. Right. So there's something there. Let's fix it. Let's really make you a bulletproof individual, no
yeah.
matter what. And when you argue with those Karens, I had one when I did a Q&A where she's like, girls can do everything men can do. I was just like, okay, cool. Well, you try pissing on fire and put it out without burning yourself. See if you can fucking do that, darling, and tell me the same thing. And everyone just replied to me and they were like, that is hilarious. And I was like, because it's fucking true.
Yeah.
It's fucking true. Men need women and women need men. They're not the same, but they riff off one another beautifully. Why the fuck are you trying to, do this and that? Like, nah, it's not about that, right? It's not like that at
Yeah.
all.
Well, like, if we're gonna talk about society and the West and all the failings, we'll probably be another hour and a
Fucking
half
hell,
here.
that needs to be a pod we do
I
because
think
fucking,
so. I was gonna talk about even how you're in Thailand and how like they're very patriotic and stuff like that, and the opposite effect from the West at the moment. But we'll put that for
we
maybe
need a
next month.
pen. We need a pen in that EP because
Yeah.
it's going to be a fucking mass awakening.
Yeah, yeah. Before we go, just in case anyone's listening that is interested in coaching, maybe wants to get in shape, wants to improve their mindset around the actions and behaviors that they want to implement, where can they find you?
At Ryan Eveleigh on Instagram, right? There's a plethora of links in my bio as well. If you check me a follow and stuff like that, I'll probably reach out. I always like interacting with my followers. I'm not one of those people who are like, I just want as many followers as possible. I want people, who genuinely want the best and who genuinely buy into that. So that's where you can find me. And never ever hesitate to reach out. I'm not a person who ever comes from a place of judgment, ever. I always come from a place of empathy first. You know, unless I can see the person that's trying to fucking play a game with me, well then, okay, if you want to drag me into mental warfare, it's your loss. Let's go. Let's fucking go.
Uncle Ryan, pleasure as always.
Come on, come, brother. Thank you so much for having me, my G.
My man. Thanks for watching. If you like that episode and you want to see more content like this, make sure you're subscribed, and I'll see you on the next one.